Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome to Unusually Horrid. Welcome to another episode of Vlogmas. And welcome, I'm glad you joined me today. If you're not new, welcome back. Thanks for hanging out with me again. So today has been a little bit of a busy day and I kind of want to just chill and relax a little bit. I thought it would be funny to find like the weirdest Christmas movie I could find on Amazon. I feel like Amazon always comes in clutch with like the weird movies. Like you'll find anything on Amazon, especially in like the free movies. So I picked out a movie today that looked a little bit weird, a little bit interesting. It's called A Christmas Dragon, I believe. Let me double check. So it's called The Christmas Dragon. It came out in 2015. It's an hour and 46 minutes long. Here's the description. Like, I'm not saying this is a bad movie, I'm just saying I picked, like, the weirdest Christmas movie I could find. I'm not saying it's gonna be a bad movie. I have no idea, I haven't watched it yet. It has 4 stars on Amazon, so it can't be that bad, but here's the description. Father Christmas is a fading memory. After Christmas hasn't come for several years, a what? Okay, I read that wrong. Father Christmas is a fading memory. After Christmas hasn't come for several years, a young orphan girl receives a magic crystal from a dying elf, with a warning that the North has lost its magic and she alone can save Christmas. So, first of all, I think I need a couple essentials here before I watch this movie. I think I'm gonna run into town and get some snacks first, and then we'll meet back here after the movie. So, I'm gonna go run and grab some snacks. I might just bring you guys with me, and let's watch this movie. We'll meet back here after so we can discuss A Christmas Dragon. Before we get into the movie, I just thought you should know that these are the snacks that I got. You know, the essentials like Hershey's Kisses, Lunchables, and eggnog. But in my defense, these are my favorite Christmas candy. This just looked fantastic, and I've been craving this for days. Well, that was certainly a movie that I watched with my eyes. Okay, we have a lot to unpack here. That movie really did not know at all what it wanted to be. This movie had a run time of 1 hour and 46 minutes, and it felt like 3 hours, okay? If you took the amount of that time, that 1 hour and 46 minutes, and condensed it to the times they actually talked about Christmas, I think we'd have roughly a 15-minute movie. For a movie with Christmas as the main word of the entire title, you would think this movie would have something to do with actual Christmas. I took notes, okay? There was 3 pages worth, to be exact. There was a lot. Let's jump into these notes, shall we? At some point during this movie, I wound up on IMDb trying to, like, look up stuff about the movie, and I found out that it was actually, like, a Kickstarter, like, it was crowdfunded, which makes sense because, nobody was gonna fund a movie that was called The Christmas Dragon that, had nothing to do with Christmas. Like, I shouldn't say nothing. Almost nothing to do with Christmas. This movie came out in 2015, so it was riding on the coattails of the new Hobbit franchise and, of course, Game of Thrones. So it wants to be like this high fantasy story, but like Christmas doesn't necessarily fit into a high fantasy setting. And all I really can say is that this is probably the most intense Christmas movie I've ever seen. Spoilers ahead, obviously. So within the first 10 minutes, you see the main protagonist's parents get literally burned alive by a dragon. So it's like right off the bat, like dragons are the bad guys here. So the girl is like an orphan. She grows up in this orphanage, blah, 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 whatever. She's like out exploring in the woods, and the creepiest elf I have ever seen in my life comes up to her and gives her like this chunk of selenite that is like this magical stone, and she's supposed to like follow it to save Christmas. So like, let's talk about Christmas in this movie. So she's like the only one in the orphanage at first who like even acknowledges Christmas. Like she hangs up like a dirty old sock above their fireplace, and everyone else is just kind of like, okay, whatever. And like somebody finally brings it up, and she like explains that it was like a tradition her parents used to share with her because her parents are dead, so obviously this is like extra special. And the thing is like they're all at a table, right? Like all the orphans, and then there's like a priest, a nun, and like a monk or something like at the other end of the table, because clearly they're the ones in charge of this orphanage. And they are not acknowledging this Christmas conversation at all. They're not entertaining it, they're not paying attention.
she's the one who has to save the Christmas magic. Nobody believes in Christmas spirit anymore. Like, Christmas is just for kids. So, like, eventually the kids from the orphanage are supposed to be, like, taken away by these people who, like, bought them or something. So they escape or whatever. And, like, the little stone eventually leads them to, like, this full-grown man named Eric. It's literally just Eric with an A instead. And so he's like this mysterious guy, and he's like, oh, how did you get this? I'll help you, blah, blah, blah. Well, spoilers. Okay, it turns out this guy is Santa's son, which, like, I'm not saying I expected it, but I am saying when I found out, I was not surprised. So the reason that Christmas is, like, not a thing anymore is because he stole, like, this time-altering crystal that slows down time and stops Santa from aging. So, like, now Santa's dying and all the magic is gone. So I feel like the adults, like, were they, like, super jaded as a kid when they didn't, like, get Christmas because all the Christmas magic was dying? So they just, like, instill that on all the kids. Like, I didn't have a Christmas, so we're not going to acknowledge it. That's, like, the only thing I can think of. But as, like, the story goes on, like, more people, like, casually acknowledge Christmas. But really, the entirety of this movie is just, like, conflict after conflict after conflict after conflict after conflict. And whenever I watch movies that are like that have, like, almost no, like, chill time or, like, actual dialogue, like, the entire, like, point of the movie is just, like, action scene after action scene, especially if they're, like, dragging somebody down. I will refer to a movie like that as a joyless suckfest. And I feel like this kind of, like, applies to this. Like, there was no joy in this movie for it being a Christmas movie, except for, like, at the end for, like, maybe 30 seconds. At this point, they had, like, returned the stone to Santa. They took all the presents to the kids, whatever. And there's, like, literally 30 seconds where everyone believes in Christmas magic, and then just like that, it's conflict again, and these bounty hunters who have been, like, hunting the kids the whole time show up again. Like, you want your protagonist to get a win at least once in the film, and it almost feels like that doesn't happen, even though it, like, does, but it literally only happens within the last 5 minutes. And again, this movie's almost 2 hours long, and it drags. So let's introduce some of the characters here. The main girl here, which I literally don't even remember her name. I don't think I wrote it down. It really wasn't that memorable. Like I said, she's an orphan. She watched her parents literally get, like, blown into flames by a dragon. And she, as a kid, like, gets scratched by the dragon. And she, like, develops dragon senses, kind of. She, almost like a Harry Potter thing, or, like, Spidey senses. Like, every time dragons are near, she's like, oh, my arm, you know, like with Harry and a scar and stuff. Anytime dragons are around, she can, like, tell, and they can go hide and be safe or whatever. And I think, like, that's the reason, like, the elf, like, picks hers, because she has magic in her from, like, this dragon, I guess. But, like, it doesn't really get deeper than that at all. So then we have some of the other orphans are introduced. We have this kid, who I will refer to as Eyeliner Boy. Now, when I first saw him, my thought was, wow, that's a lot of eyeliner. Nope, nobody else is really wearing eyeliner. I'm, like, on the phone with my husband at this point while I'm watching the movie, and I'm, like, explaining this to him, and I'm like, I literally can't stress enough to you how he is the only person wearing eyeliner. Also, like, almost as soon as I was saying that, you watch this kid go back into the orphanage, and literally the first thing he does is put on more eyeliner. He's kind of just, like, the rough kid, like, not afraid of anything. He's, like, down for an adventure. He's, like, he's a pretty cool character. He doesn't really do anything that gets them into, like, a lot of trouble. He's just, like, down for a fight, whatever. Cool. And then we have, like, these two kids who are just kind of there to help do, like, booby traps and stuff, and I don't remember their names. But then you have these two. So the boy is literally, if you looked up the definition of, like, basic white teenage boy, I think this kid would pop up. Like, his face, and, like, I'm not necessarily trying to be mean. This isn't a mean thing. He's, like, whatever, but he literally looks like every single teenage boy that I have ever seen in my life. And his girlfriend, who at the beginning of the movie, now I do remember her name, Rosalind, because she's the only one that, like, logically ever makes sense in this movie, but she also is, like, a total idiot. So she's, like, the mean girl and kind of goes against the, like, main girl all the time, and, like, she only cares about, like, her interests or whatever. But she's, like, hiding this big secret from everybody that Garrett has been, like, taken away by these bounty hunters. And she's like keeping the secret for literally no reason. Like there's no reason to have kept the secret. So it turns out that the bounty hunters also paid for her. So they're like chasing them the whole time. And so they like wind up in this tavern, which is where they find Santa's kid. And he like realizes, like I said, he like noticed that she had the crystal and blah, blah, blah. So he helps them escape from the bounty hunters that like found them. And they kind of just, like I said, they're like teamed up after this. And that's when like the main character starts explaining like how she got the crystal and like the creepy elf and how like the magic like left him. Like, let me emphasize how creepy this elf is. I'm gonna try and like find a picture and put it here. But their practical effects in this movie were pretty, something. And so this, like, terrifying elf gave her this message that she has to, like, use this compass crystal thing to, like, find him and save Christmas. So, like I said, there's, like, a ton of conflict. So at this point, they, like, have to go fight an ogre to get the crystal because, like, he lost it in a bet to the ogre. So after they get the crystal back from the ogre, they go into the woods and then they find, like, dragon poachers. And this is where, I guess, like, the Christmas dragon finally comes in. I'm not gonna lie, dragons really have, like, nothing to do with this movie outside of, like, this. Which, at this point, we've been watching this movie for a long time, and the only other time we saw a dragon was when her parents got roasted. So these dragon poachers, like, shoot this baby dragon out of the sky. And suddenly, like, her dragon senses are tingling. And instead of, like, I don't know. I feel like, okay, if my parents got, like, roasted by a dragon, I wouldn't be like, oh my god, save the dragons. Dragons have rights. But that's literally what this girl does. And you know what? More power to her. She has a bigger heart than I do. But she literally is like, no, you can't kill this dragon, blah, blah, blah. So then they, like, chase away the dragon hunters. And, like, they basically are like, okay, dragon, stay here. We're gonna come back for you later. So while they're in the woods at this point, like, during that whole scene where they're, like, fighting off these people, this, like, badass lady, like, comes up in slow-mo or whatever. And she, like, takes out all these guys. And you, like, see that she has, like, pointed ears and stuff. So she's, like, another elf, except she's, like, a super hottie or something. Not creepy at all like the other elf. She just has, like, some, like, spooky, like, lines on her face to show that, like, this curse is, like, touching her as well, but clearly not as bad as literally everyone else around her. So, like, she winds up, like, knowing who the guy is, obviously, because she's an elf. She, like, works for his dad, and she, like, slaps him, and that's, like, when you find out he's Santa's kid. And I kind of, like, tuned out at this point because literally it was just them, like, from, like, conflict, and my mind at this point was so fried that I'm like, oh, he's Santa's kid? Oh, okay. And I kind of was just on IMDb for a minute, and the next thing I knew, they were in Santa's workshop. So they're in Santa's workshop. He goes up to his dad. He's like, I'm so sorry I did this. And earlier you find out that, like, the reason he did this is because he stole the crystal to try and turn back time and bring his mom back to life, which was the most predictable thing as soon as you find out that the crystal has anything to do with time. I wrote it down. I was like, Santa's son? LOL. Mom's dead? Yep, because that's how fast you find out after that. The entire, like, father and son, like, reunion where he's, like, crying to his, like, dying Santa Claus father, like, elicits absolutely no emotion from me whatsoever. Maybe I'm dead inside, or maybe it's the fact that this movie was too damn long. Or it was the fact that, like, he didn't actually seem sad at all while he's, like, talking to his dying father. Also, like, it brings up a point, too, because they, like, make a point to say that you can't go back in time at all. So once he puts this crystal in, is Santa just, like, stuck in this perpetual state of dying? I couldn't get over that. That was definitely something in the movie I could not get over. So, unfortunately, when they put the crystal back in, there wasn't, like, enough belief in Santa or Christmas or whatever, like, outside of the, like, North Pole realm. So, of course, the kids and Santa's son and the hot lady elf all have to, like, get together and deliver presents to bring the Christmas magic, but they can't pull the sleigh without magic. Here's where the dragons actually are part of the story. They use a dragon as the reindeer, and that's pretty much all the dragon action. Somebody tries to shoot them down because they have a dragon, and then they just fly higher, and wow, that's fixed. And, like, for a second, Rosalind was about to fall off the sleigh, but again, just because they wanted to fill this movie with as much conflict as possible. Yeah, so they, like, go into the town that they literally ran away from and deliver all these presents. So there's like this whole meeting between them, and they're so excited to see the orphans again because they didn't know what happened. So they start to deliver presents, and like the magic starts to like spark up the crystal up at the North Pole where like Santa's like holding onto it half dead. And all this like Christmas spirit starts to bubble up again, and then the bounty hunters show up out of nowhere. So like literally as soon as the movie starts to feel wholesome or Christmassy at all, they like, nope, time for more conflict. So of course they have to, you know, defend the kids from the bounty hunters, and Santa just comes in and he's like basically just like judge, jury, and executioner, and he's like, I charge you with being bad or whatever. He literally comes in like a judge, and he's like, I convict you of this, so here's your jurisdiction, and he like kicks them out of the town, and everyone's like, oh yeah, Santa, the judge, he just comes in and does all our legal business apparently. And if you would think that was the end of the conflict, no, because now people want to kill the dragon, because it's a freaking dragon and it will grow up to burn stuff. But the main character's like, it's Christmas, we have to forgive the dragon. It killed my parents and I have room in my heart, so what about you? And the whole town is just like, oh yeah, no, okay, cool. I mean, like, if we burn to death, we burn to death. It's chill, it's chill. So then after that, it starts snowing, and there's like Christmas magic for like 2 seconds, and then it fades to black. And I thought for 2 seconds maybe I was good and we were out of the woods and this movie was over. No, wedding scene. Apparently Hot Elf and Santa's son were like a thing. So obviously the only adults in the movie that weren't like old and creepy looking got together. Duh. So then you have like this entire wedding scene that like straight up did not need to be put in there, especially with a runtime of 1 hour and 46 minutes. So yeah, if you want to go ahead and avoid this, which I shouldn't say entirely, if you have somebody in your family who just doesn't necessarily get into the Christmas spirit, but you want to have like a mildly Christmassy evening, and you like dragons enough, like, just put it on. It's a decent fantasy flick. It's just a really bad Christmas flick. Also, I'm not gonna lie, the first time that the elf and Santa's son kissed, I got a little uncomfortable because I thought they were gonna wind up being siblings. I just got that vibe at first, and no, they were not siblings. So yeah, honestly, that movie took a lot out of me, and I'm sort of exhausted after watching it. I cannot stand movies that are like that full of conflict. Like, we need like a break or some comedy, like something, but no, it was just one conflict after the next after the next. The pacing in this movie was not great, and I very much so zoned out on IMDb for a hot minute. So yeah, that was me watching the weirdest Christmas movie on Amazon that I possibly could, so I could come review it for you guys, so that maybe you guys don't make the same mistake as me and watch this movie, but also maybe do, because like, I feel like you just have to see it to understand. Anyway, if you made it all the way through this video and you're not subscribed, I would love it if you did subscribe. I would love to see you again. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you want to stay up to date on all things Unusually Horrid, go ahead and follow the Facebook page. If you want to see some makeup looks that don't always end up on this channel, go ahead and follow me on Instagram. And if you want to see me be an obnoxious feral human being, go ahead and follow me on TikTok. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Have a good day. Have a good night. Have a good life. I'm gonna sleep now after watching that stupid movie. And yeah, Unusually Horrid out. Okay, bye!